Welcome to the Erica Show. My name is Erica from Crypto Soul. The Erica Show is an effort to stay connected with the builders in this space, despite your current limitations. Through the Erica Show, we can connect with important builders in this space. 안녕하세요. 크립토 소울 에리카입니다. 에리카쇼는 유망한 프로젝트 대표들과 소통하는 기회를 제공하기 위해서 만들게 된 인터뷰 시리즈입니다. 오늘은 셀로의 공동 창업자인 Marek Olszewski님을 모셨습니다. Did I pronounce it right?
Perfect, yeah.
I practiced. Today, I'm incredibly excited to welcome today's guest, Marek Olszewski, co-founder of Celo. It's been more than half a year since we last met. I last met Marek in the beautiful Celo office in San Francisco, right before COVID-19 hit hard in the US. Marek, how have you been?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I've been really good. Yeah, it's been a really busy year for us. And yeah, I've been doing great.
Yeah, awesome. As a simple starting question, for people who don't know you, or who don't know Celo, could you give us a short intro of yourself and what you're currently working on?
Yes, of course. Yes, so I'm a partner at SRB Labs, which is one of the companies working on the Celo protocol. And I have a technical background. I studied computer engineering at the University of Toronto for my undergrad. And then I went to MIT for my PhD. At MIT, I worked on an area of research called deterministic multithreading, which just totally out of coincidence happens to be very relevant for scaling decentralized systems today. After MIT, I started a company with someone that I met at MIT, René Reinsberg. It was a machine learning company that was helping small businesses better compete against the big guys, the kind of Amazons and the McDonald's of the world. That company did well, it got acquired, and then I teamed up again with René and one of our advisors from that time, and started Celo about 3 years ago now.
Oh, so you worked on multiple projects, not just, Celo's not the first project.
It's not the first company or project that we've started together, no, yeah.
Wow, awesome. And you previously worked on those projects before Celo, and what's your story? Well, you said you studied an area relevant to what you're doing today, but what's your story on how you actually fell into the rabbit hole, crypto rabbit hole, basically?
Yeah, it's a great story. Actually, what was it now? 7 years ago, I met Brian Armstrong at a music festival.
Oh my God. Oh.
And he was really excited. I think he had just started Coinbase, and he sent me a small amount of Bitcoin. It was $5 at the time, very generous by today's standards, and yeah, and that got me, intrigued and started going down the rabbit hole like everyone else. Yeah, we were just kind of past the 3-year mark for when SRB Labs, company that we work out of, was founded, and we were looking back at kind of the history of the company and what got us there. And I actually found that email from Brian, and it was very, very topical because Coinbase just this week listed Celo.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice. It was a really nice way to tie the whole story together.
Exactly. Wow. I was just going to mention that at the end of the interview, but anyway, now let's talk more about Celo. I love the name, by the way. I really love the name. How would you describe it in a nutshell?
Yeah, so Celo, and so the name comes from purpose in Esperanto, and Celo is, and so Celo's mission is to create the conditions for prosperity for everyone by creating a platform, a mobile platform that anyone can build financial tools on top of. And the way we've done that, I think this is an exciting time in the space. There's a lot of projects that are launching kind of new layer ones. I think in 2017, there was a big push after Ethereum had its first kind of gas spikes, and there was a lot of focus on scalability. And Celo is, in fact, a scalable proof-of-stake chain that, in part, was developed as a response to what we were seeing back then. But it's actually a lot more than that. And so what we realized is that usability was, in addition to scalability, something that was really lacking in this space. And if you want to advance financial inclusion, if you want to create, if you want to promote open access to financial infrastructure, it needs to be easy to use. And so in addition to being a proof-of-stake chain, Celo has, I would say, 3 really kind of core innovations that are really focused on usability. And so the first one is that it's mobile first. I think at the end of the day, if you want to make something that a lot of people can access, it needs to be mobile friendly. And what this means for us is that it has to work in a peer-to-peer manner on a mobile device. And so Celo has a very efficient light client that allows mobile phones to very easily, almost instantly sync with the peer-to-peer chain. And we can talk more about that. It's very, very interesting. The second innovation is Celo has a decentralized stablecoin platform that's native to the actual platform. To start, we've launched, or the platform has launched CUSD, Celo Dollars, which is a ERC20-like token sitting on the platform that's collateralized by a very big over-collateralized crypto asset reserve. And even though Celo Dollars are tokens, or is a token, you can actually pay for gas with tokens on the Celo platform. And so again, in that theme of usability, we wanted to make it really easy to be able to kind of send and receive stable assets. And to do that, we made it possible to pay for gas using tokens. And then thirdly, and perhaps most excitingly, Celo has a identity system that's built into the platform, which acts like a PKI that maps hashes of phone numbers to public keys and wallet addresses. And what this allows is for anyone to be able to send payments to phone numbers really easily, even before someone has signed up for the platform. And so just like with PayPal, you can send a payment to someone before they actually create a PayPal account. With Celo, you can do the same, but using a phone number as an identifier. And this is pretty, I think, important for kind of bootstrapping network effects, but also just for usability. I think one of the downsides of many of today's protocols is that you have to create a public-private key pair before someone can actually send you a payment. And for most people, that is just one extra hurdle to sending a payment, and it really is limiting adoption.
Cool. So yeah. 3 main aspects. Awesome. So I noticed that you talked about mobile first strategy, and I was really interested in that. What made you concentrate on mobile first strategy? And I mean, of course, everyone in the world has a mobile phone, and I think that's what made you maybe it's more accessible to even people in developing countries. But can you elaborate more on what that focus is about?
Yeah, so I think it's all about just access. I think the Web 2.0 world has moved towards kind of a mobile first mindset. I would say almost 10 years ago now. There was a famous book written by, I believe, I think is it Luke Wróbelski, about going mobile first, and I think the entire Web 2.0 world has followed. In fact, I think many web applications today, the way that people actually design these things is to first design the mobile version, and only later actually scale it up to the desktop version. And what they found actually is that, one, it leads to better mobile experiences. It's much easier to do that than to start with the desktop version and then go and scale that down to the mobile version. But two, they've actually also found that it makes the desktop version easier to use and better from that perspective. And so the Web 2.0 world has embraced this now for, again, almost 10 years. And it's almost a little ironic that the Web 3 world, which is supposed to be kind of the future of Web 2, is actually quite backwards in this regard. You know, I think there is a lot of focus on web apps today, and until recently, really not as much focus on mobile. And so we wanted to change that, and we really wanted to just start off and think about, okay, if we were to build something that was entirely mobile first, what would it look like? And so we built our wallet, our mobile wallet, before we built our desktop wallet, for example, and we designed everything mobile to begin with. And that really has meant that we ended up making various, I would say, design decisions that went all the way down to the protocol stack that really ended up making the platform better for mobile. I think most obviously the light client is a big piece. We use snark-based proofs to prove that a header is part of the chain, which allows the mobile app to sync really, really quickly. And we have this whole identity system that's tied to your to phone numbers, and that's, I would say, really quite interesting and quite important, because piggybacking on existing social networks is a long time, it's a long known strategy for just removing friction when it comes to bootstrapping kind of two-sided kind of network effects or marketplaces. And obviously, you know, Facebook with its approach has the Facebook social graph, and you know, perhaps that's why they're launching their protocol. But we have something that I think is actually even bigger than the Facebook social network graph, and that's the decentralized kind of combination of everyone's contact lists on everyone's phone. There's over 6 billion smartphones now that have active subscriptions in the world. That's more than the number of active users on Facebook. Each of these phones has contact lists that connect them all together. And by building a protocol that makes it easy to tap into that social network, it becomes just a lot easier to send value just easily.
Yeah, awesome. So for countries like Korea, so I'm in Vietnam, but for countries like Korea and Vietnam, how can it add value to these countries? Like, can you give us an example of how like people in those countries can use the Celo app?
Yeah, and so you know, the Valora app, the main Celo wallet is called Valora. You can check it out at valoraapp.com. It's and Valora, by the way, means value in Esperanto, so the idea is that you can send with value. The app is permissionless, self-custodial, and connects in a peer-to-peer fashion with the overall protocol, and so anyone can use it. So if you live in a country where you don't have an equivalent to Venmo or PayPal, then Valora is a good option to replicate that, because it operates primarily with kind of the stable assets on Celo. It's actually useful as a medium of exchange. But the other thing about it is that you can actually send value overseas easily. And so if you're in one country and you have relatives or loved ones in another country, you can use Valora to send value overseas, just as you would with maybe many existing mobile money solutions that work within a country. And that's really, really convenient. And there's a whole kind of slew of use cases that a lot of companies are interested in building on top of Celo. Celo has an alliance now of 100 different companies that are all building on top of Celo, focused on different use cases that leverage this platform for those kind of activities.
Yeah, you just mentioned about the Celo Alliance, and I was also going to ask about that. And could you tell us more about the Alliance and how does it work, and who is involved? And also, is there like a criteria for getting in, and just what sorts of commitments does it involve?
Yeah, so the Alliance involves signing an MOU that includes a commitment to kind of building on Celo or furthering kind of the Celo ecosystem. And it involves a lot of really, really great companies. Actually, if you go to celo.org / I believe it's Alliance, let me just confirm that so I don't misspeak. Then you
it was a long list. I saw the long list of on the website.
You can check it out. And the thing that is really nice about the Alliance is that folks are kind of grouped by a number of different kind of areas. And so there's companies that are focused on helping people and merchants accept Celo currencies. And so that's kind of the accept kind of group. And there's a whole slew of really great companies, including MugglePay, which was the second place winner of Celo Camp, which was kind of an incubator run by the team at Upright. And MugglePay is really interesting. They allow you to accept crypto assets at your point of sale. And we can talk about that. There's actually a lovely story about a noodle shop in Toronto. That is
Tell us more.
Yeah. But maybe before jumping into that, there's a whole section around companies that are helping make it easy to buy Celo dollars, companies that are helping to build the whole core platform, companies that are helping you earn in Celo dollars, companies that are focused on education and building on and helping teams build on the platform, companies that are, and not-for-profits that are focused on giving with crypto assets, lending with crypto assets, and preserving the overall environment. So we're really excited. Project Wren is part of the Alliance, and they actually were part of the first governance proposal on the Celo platform to add a ongoing payment to an account that they created from block rewards that is designed to offset the carbon emissions of running the proof of stake network. So proof of stake networks already use a lot less electricity than proof of work networks, but we wanted to go beyond that. We wanted to have a carbon neutral network. And so Project Wren, which again is part of the Alliance, was part of this governance proposal and is now using their crypto kind of block rewards to help carbon offset Celo. And so I encourage everyone to go to the Alliance page. There's just too many really amazing companies here than I have time to go through. But it's a really great list.
Yeah, people should check out for themselves. And I think it's very well structured, so you can just check by like the categories, and it was really well organized. And I think a lot of the Asian community, especially the Korean community, when they saw the Celo Alliance, it reminded them of the Library Alliance, right? It's the association, basically. It's like, oh, it's an association. And I believe like Clayton in Korea also has like an association or something. And so they were comparing like these associations alliances. And so I think it was an interesting comparison. I don't know if it can be compared, but still just interesting structure, I guess. And
yeah, I think maybe with the one caveat that everything that Celo does is open and permissionless, and so in terms of joining the Celo Alliance, anyone can join. It's not like an invite-only kind of exclusive club.
Like you know who. Just kidding. But oh yeah, awesome. So you also mentioned previously about the Celo Dollar. How does CUSD work, and what keeps the Celo Dollar stable?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And so you can think of the stability mechanism as being kind of a hybrid between what Maker is doing and what Basis wanted to do back in the day, which was this kind of seigniorage shares model. And so at a very, very high level, there's Celo Dollars, which is designed to have its supply expand and contract with demand. And this is quite different from Maker. Maker, the supply of Dai is dictated by how many people want to borrow Dai using ETH as collateral or using other now collateral in order to kind of collateralize their loans. And that means that the demand and supply of Dai don't always even up, which is why sometimes we see the price of Dai going up, and you hear frustrations that Dai is hard to come by. And so with Celo Dollars, the supply and demand are always designed to be equal. But what's important is that Celo Dollars is collateralized, so that if demand ever shrinks, the protocol can actually buy back those Celo Dollars and remove them from circulation. And more than that, it's important that it's actually over collateralized. And so I think Celo Dollars right now, there's about 8 million in circulation. Celo Dollars just launched very recently, and it's been growing pretty steadily. I was looking just today, there's $450 million now, over $450 million worth of crypto assets that are collateralizing that $8 million of Celo, 8 million Celo Dollars. So that's roughly 55x over collateralized. Wow. A big portion of that is the Celo crypto asset, which is the kind of utility, reserve, staking asset and governance asset on the Celo platform. But there's also Bitcoin, ETH, and other assets in this reserve as well. So it's over collateralized and diversified into a number of different assets. And the way the expansion and contraction works is there is a Uniswap style kind of automatic market maker on chain that will always sell you one CUSD, one Celo Dollar, for $1 US worth of Celo. And what this means is that if the price of Celo Dollars ever deviates away from the $1 peg on a centralized exchange, what this means is that you can actually make money by arbitraging the off-chain exchange with the on-chain exchange. And so, for example, if the demand for Celo Dollars is exceeding the current supply, then the price would go above $1 on a centralized exchange. And since you can buy Celo Dollars for $1 on the on-chain exchange, $1 worth of Celo, you can take $1 worth of Celo, buy $1 worth of Celo Dollars, and then sell that on the centralized exchange for a profit. And in so doing, you're actually creating a new supply of Celo dollars, and kind of balancing that supply and demand. And this is pretty cool because it actually allows people to make money whenever the peg is, whenever the price starts to deviate away from the peg. And this is really what keeps fiat-backed stablecoins stable. So the same thing exists if you ever see the price of something like USDC deviating from the peg. You can always buy it for $1 from kind of the issuing entity and then sell it for a profit, or vice versa, depending on which way the peg, which way it's going relative to the peg. Only in that case, those are two centralized institutions, whereas for us, one of those is fully decentralized and permissionless and sits on chain. And this is why fiat-backed stablecoins are so stable, and why non-fiat-backed stablecoins today have not been that stable, because many of them don't have this arbitrage opportunity. With DAI, if the price deviates from the peg, you can buy it, say it dips below $1, you can buy it and hope that the price goes back up to $1 and then sell it. And many people do that, but you're not making money in the moment. And so your action is less likely to bring the price back up to the peg. Here you can just, even with a limited amount of money, you can keep going around in circles, taking the arbitrage opportunity until supply and demand is balanced again. And we actually see now a number of very enthusiastic companies and individuals who are taking these opportunities. There's been some volatility in the market over the last few weeks, and despite that, the Celo Dollar has been just absolutely rock solid, maintaining its peg. And it's really thanks to those arbitrages that are taking that opportunity.
Wow. Wow. I've heard from so many people near me who is interested in Celo, and they're like, oh, the tech is really solid. And you just mentioned previously just briefly about the tech that's making Celo. Could you elaborate more on the set of technologies that you selected to build Celo and why? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Celo actually is a fork of the Go Ethereum code base. We're big fans of Ethereum, and wanted to create something that was fully EVM compatible, so that anybody building dApps on Ethereum could easily also deploy their dApps on Celo. We actually built it in a way such that we can track changes to Ethereum, so that as Ethereum hard forks, Celo can hard fork with it, so that you're always maintaining kind of feature parity. I think the really big difference in the kind of client code base is the consensus layer. We have our own proof of stake consensus protocol that is really inspired by Tendermint, but that uses BLS signatures so that it can aggregate all of the validator signatures into a single multisig. This, it turns out, really helps with keeping headers and blocks small, but also helps a lot with the light client protocol. And beyond that, actually a lot of Celo, a lot of the core protocol was actually built in Solidity as system smart contracts. And so the governance protocol, the proof of stake protocol, the stability mechanism, all of these things are actually built in Solidity, and they're all owned by the governance smart contract, which owns itself, and which means that the whole system can be upgraded through governance. And we've already seen a number of governance proposals that have come online and that have suggested improvements and have made changes and improvements to the underlying platform. And so again, you can think of the client as mostly based on Go Ethereum with a big change to the consensus layer, and then all of this great functionality around identity, stability, governance, proof of stake. A lot of that is implemented in Solidity.
Wow. Got it. Yeah, in May, the mainnet launched, and how has it been going since then? What are some like upcoming development steps? Is there any development, like future developments planned in the future?
Yes, too much for me to even cover fully. But yeah, so we and so actually a quorum of community validators stood up the network. They set up a release candidate on Earth Day, which was April 22nd. And a release candidate ran for a couple of weeks. And since everything looked great through on-chain governance, the community enabled kind of transfers, and that was deemed kind of mainnet in May. And everything's been going really well since then. The stability mechanism working on what's next, and the most immediate thing is the Valora wallet. So this week we kind of launched a public beta of the Valora wallet. And we're continuing to make changes and improvements to make the wallet ready for a kind of broader public launch. So that's on the most immediate side. Longer term, there's a lot of interesting things. Most immediately, we're working on doing a trusted setup for the Plumo light client protocol. So the version that launched on mainnet is about 17,000 times more efficient than something like Ethereum or Bitcoin. When Plumo launches, it'll be millions of times more efficient, which will be really exciting. And so that's kind of a big next step. And it's going to be a really exciting trusted setup, probably going to be one of the biggest ever done in terms of the amount of compute that has to go into it. The ZK Snark circuits that we're using to prove that a header is part of the chain, they're really big, and they're operating on a very big elliptic curve, which just means a lot of compute, both for proving, but also for the actual trusted setup. And so it's actually so big that we can't have everyone contribute sequentially, which is the typical way that these kind of powers of Tao type ceremonies are typically administered. And we've actually worked hard to parallelize that so that everyone can optimistically provide their entropy and allow the whole thing to happen in parallel. Otherwise, the ceremony would have taken months. Which is just too long. Yeah. So look out for the Plumo ceremony if you've participated in any trusted setups before. Highly recommend getting involved. For now, if you just go to chat.celo.org and go to the Plumo Discord channel, that's where we're talking about this. Beyond that, there are a number of improvements and changes to the Celo platform. We want to launch more stable coins that are all backed by the same crypto asset reserve. We want to build bridges to other chains. to bring more of these assets onto Celo so that the reserve can be more diversified. And we're starting to work with teams interested in building community currencies, which is something that is really near and dear to our kind of hearts. There's a lot of, I think, interest kind of globally in kind of local and regional currencies. There's been a number that have been kind of running around the world. I think there's a pretty big and well-known one in Sardinia called Sardex. And these systems allow people to kind of keep money within their communities and within their local economies, but they're hard to launch. Launching one of these, especially in today's day where everyone wants to pay electronically, you know, it's not everyone who wants to launch something like this can invest in the time and effort that it takes to build something that then can be accepted by a whole slew of local merchants in their local geographies. And so this is something that longer term Celo will start enabling, in addition to currencies pegged to kind of local fiat. We're very, very excited about these community currencies. Wow,
so many plans. This is like a long milestone, like so many milestones that you just kind of mentioned, right? It's like would you say it's like a 6-month milestone or like 1-year milestone? Like so many things that you just mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, so the Valora wallet we're working on right now, it's the most immediate thing. This is very short term. Plumo is more kind of 3 months out. Bridges will take probably 6 months to a year, and then community currencies are on the
longer
1-year time frame. But maybe not. You know, it's if you have experience building dApps with Solidity, it's actually quite easy to get going. And because you can pay for gas with tokens, a lot of the complexity that exists on Ethereum actually doesn't exist on Celo. And so, yeah, I think some of these teams may end up launching even sooner than that.
Cool. So recently, Celo announced that it acquires Summa One. Yeah, congratulations on that. I was very surprised. I know James quite well, and also, you know, everyone in Korea was very surprised as well. What sort of synergy effects did you expect from the acquisition? And one question from the community, actually, Korean community asked directly, what chains do you wish to first connect with? That's what they asked for.
Yeah, really good question. Yeah, so the synergies are, you know, that we're kind of accelerating our plans to connect to other chains. You know, the Summa team is just outstanding, really some of the best in the interoperability space. We're humbled that they chose to join kind of the Celo mission, and have it's been really, really wonderful working together since they've joined. In terms of what they're working on, I think it's interoperability.
Yeah.
Which, as I just mentioned earlier, is one of the key things that we're looking to do next. In terms of chains, you know, I think it's a little early yet to know. Certainly the ones with a lot of liquidity are important, especially for the stability mechanism. But you know, I think we see a future where a lot of chains are interconnected. And so I think it will be really, really interesting to see how the space evolves. I think one really nice advantage that Celo has, which may be interesting to any of your listeners who are thinking about building bridges, is that just by coincidence, the light client that we've created for the mobile phone happens to make it quite efficient to build a bridge to Celo, because you can fairly cheaply verify the state of something of storage on Celo, so much so that you could actually do that on chain. And so, you know, probably the easiest example of this is back in the day, BTC Relay was verifying Bitcoin headers and state transitions on the Ethereum chain. And this meant that every 10 minutes, a new Bitcoin header had to be put into a smart contract on Ethereum, and the proof of work had to be verified. And that just got expensive after a while. Gas prices went up on Ethereum, and it just became unsustainable to keep doing that. Because the Celo-like client protocol is so much more efficient than something like Bitcoin, it's actually a lot more feasible to do something like that in a smart contract on another chain.
Wow. Yeah, so I really hope that interoperability becomes an immediate, I don't know, aspect of Celo as well. And I think a lot of people were curious about the interoperability aspect as well, how you're going to be connected to other chains and whatnot. So that was one of the major questions. Thank you. So I know Celo was interested in visiting Asia this year, and then COVID hit. How do you plan to tackle the Asian market or to connect with the Asian market and or community? What sorts of like community efforts would you like to see this year or next year? And yeah, just knowing what you're planning in Asia, maybe in the upcoming years.
Yeah, and definitely very bummed by not being able to visit this year. And
yeah.
One thing that I omitted in my background is that I was actually born in Singapore and actually grew up and spent 18 years in Southeast Asia.
Really?
So it's always good to be always good to be back. Yeah, you know, I think you know, Asia is a very important market. I think there's a lot of remittances going on. In Asia, there's a lot of countries that are also interested in doing COVID relief payments, NGOs doing COVID relief payments. And then, you know, generally, I think, you know, folks are just a little bit more kind of knowledgeable around crypto. And so, and excited about the technology and just generally kind of tinkering with it. And so from that perspective, it's a very, very exciting place for us. And maybe this brings me to that story I mentioned earlier. Yeah, and so the Muggle Pay, which was kind of the second kind of finalist in Celo Camp, this kind of incubator that Upright has been running. Celo Camp, by the way, is great, and they just announced their call for applications for V2. So if you're interested in building a kind of company that, especially if you're interested in doing so in kind of a mobile-first manner, then highly recommend checking out Celo Camp and applying. There's some prizes for kind of going through the camp and winning, and so it may be interesting. And then Muggle Pay, you know, has an interesting story. So they worked closely with a noodle shop that was based in Toronto. I think they were called Taste of Guangxi. And what they found was that many of their customers actually were from out of town. They were actually coming from Asia. And as a result, they didn't have a way sometimes to even pay. They didn't have Canadian dollars, and sometimes their credit cards wouldn't be processed, and so this noodle shop partnered with Muggle Pay, and they ended up building a POS that accepts crypto payments, and sure enough, that took off, and and the noodle shop is doing really, really well. And as part of this Celo camp, MugglePay added support for Celo. And so now if you're ever traveling to Toronto and you want to eat some delicious noodle soup, you can do so by paying with Celo Dollars directly on your phone. The whole experience is really quite seamless. So that's exciting as well.
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to check it out when I go to Toronto.
Me too. I can't wait. I can't wait to be until the travel restrictions are lifted.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I cannot wait. So, okay, so you're definitely gonna plan maybe like something in Asia when the travel plans are restrictions are lifted. And DSRB Labs based in South Korea is also a big community supporter of Celo. And how has that experience been for you? Like, do you have any future collaborations planned, or are they still, closely working with you guys? Very curious on my end.
Yeah, and DSRB is a great part of the Celo community. They're running a validator and have been participating in the community right from the beginning, back when the incentivized testnet was running. We're really big fans. I'm not directly involved with the conversations that C Labs and them have been having, but I've heard a whole slew of excitement around possible kind of collaborations, everything from community currencies that are also interesting in South Korea, and bridges and deploying dApps on Celo. I think the list was really, really long last I heard, and we're very, very humbled again that they're excited to be building on Celo and to be participating in running and operating the network. We're just really excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the long interview. But lastly, can you share a short message to the Asian or Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese, Asian community in general? Just a short message.
Yeah, just, thank you for listening. Hope that, this was kind of interesting and insightful for you. If you are interested in playing around with kind of the mobile app, definitely check out Valora if you go to valoraApp.com. Just stay in touch. I think hopefully with next year, we can come out and visit, and would love to chat and connect and build a kind of more beautiful future together.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the long interview, and thank you so much, and hope to see you in person, hopefully next year. Thank you so much. Thank you.